Hello, welcome to the Citrus Garden. If you're new here, my name is Christina. Thank you so much for joining me here. This is a reading for Sagittarius suns, or if you just have significant placements of Sagittarius and are needing a masculine energy to work with or balance within yourself, then this reading is for you. So Sagittarius, your reading is quite an interesting one today. It's very different than the one that I had recorded yesterday, which just confirms for me that yesterday was not your reading. But we'll get started. So we're starting here with the zebra, the frog, and the horse, which is such an incredible combination because with this deck here, you have the portal for the time loop and the changing heart, which is actually interesting because when I pulled this one, this card was actually in reverse, which is really interesting because a lot of these cards, they don't have like a regular up and down. Like, anyways, doesn't matter. So this card is actually was in reverse, and I flipped it. And this is telling me that with the time loop and the changing heart, I feel like Sagittarius, you're going through a really significant inner transformation. And it kind of looks like this with this, the zebra into the horse, right? Because of course, with the frog in between, which is talking about healing and transformation, metamorphosis. So you absolutely are going through some sort of inner transformation is kind of how this is feeling. With the zebra, especially because I always see the zebra. I feel like that's where you're coming from, right? With the fire. All of this fire in your reading today, there's a lot of it. But the zebra I always talk about as being like somebody who stands out from the crowd, right? That's kind of like compared to a horse. The zebra is one who absolutely stands out against sort of like a very perhaps oppositional kind of background is kind of how I'm seeing it, right? There's like kind of like a perhaps maybe purposely going against the grain, maybe. But because it's a time loop, I feel like there was something within this energy that wasn't serving you. And that's why you're sort of going through this like healing transformation kind of energy. I feel like you are just in the ending stage of this energy. So it may still be present in you a little bit. But you are quickly moving into the horse, which is like, this horse is really lovely because it still has all these aspects of like a zebra, but it's much more part of a group, or much more forgiving, much more because it's coming in with the earth element, much more grounded, right? Much more it feels actually something to do with group dynamics, because it could be something like you in the past, Sagittarius, were very much like almost perhaps rebellious, right? Like purposely going against the grain in order to make yourself stand out. Whereas the horse is a lot more accepting and calm is kind of how I'm feeling it. It's very calm. Still absolutely a free spirit, right? Still a free spirit, but in a way that is working a lot better for you, especially perhaps in terms of like how you fit in with others or how you connect with others. But it's like these cards are so similar, right? I'm seeing this as just kind of like a rebellious like teen phase into like a more mature and grounded and whole and integrated version of that. Like, still absolutely a free spirit. But there's an integration here about like, it's not oppositional, if that makes sense. It's not argumentative, perhaps. And the reason why I'm saying that is that like there is, okay, so if we're starting here, all of your animal cards for this current energy came out at once, 5 of them. But as soon as I held them in my hand, they split into 2 groups. So the first group, this is your past energy, all fire energy, where it's the tarantula, the panther, and the lion. So this is talking to me about how perhaps you reacted in response to like opposition, right? So if there's any sort of conflict or anything, this would be your response. And how it came out was like this, where on the surface, I feel like in the past, you displayed this energy, which was very strong and almost prideful. So very like unshakable. You were not afraid to speak your voice, right? To express your dissent, perhaps. Because it's coming through with a lot of fire, it's kind of feeling like you acted in a way that was very you at the center, right? Like you spoke your voice. You always said what it was you were thinking. If somebody challenged you, you were never afraid to challenge back. Is kind of the energy that I'm getting. And then here, but on the inside, right? Like, so this is like your what you're presenting to the world. This is a past version of you. Keep in mind, remember that. The tarantula and the panther, which the tarantula I always feel as being sort of like somebody who feels under threat because they've lost some aspect of their security. I'm just getting things like if somebody challenged you, right? There would be this sort of like feeling of like being put on the spot. And perhaps in the past you've reacted from this place with the panther of, because I see this as sort of like a reflex, your natural reflex to respond in fear or in threat, right? That kind of energy. But you did it in a way that was very sort of strong, right? With the zebra. Not afraid to go against the grain. Not afraid to speak very strongly. But I feel like this is the energy that's changing, which is really interesting. Because you have here this energy. So the portal for the sunset and the god of waters, which is really significant, this water card, because as I said, all of those cards are fiery. Portal for the sunset just means like it's the end of this energy. This energy is moving through, it's passing, it's coming to an end. Because I feel like the god of waters is coming in. This is just talking, so it could be like some sort of like it could be you're having an interaction with a water sign, for example. It doesn't have to be that. It's just talking about, this card especially is talking about water has the potential for a massive amount of healing, but it could also cause a lot of destruction as well. And what I feel like this energy that's coming in, if it hasn't come in already, it's like it is coming in, or it's in your environment right now. You could just be going through like a really emotional time, and it might be to sort of like tamp down this energy. Keep in mind, Sagittarius, that this may also be playing out for you where you're having this interaction, because Sagittarius has been coming up in so many different readings in like the last couple weeks as being an energy that is your temperance, right? Sagittarius is a temperance energy, which is for me all about the interaction between water and fire, right? How water naturally sort of soothes and calms fiery energies so that the fire doesn't sort of burn too hot kind of thing, right? It's a very balancing energy. So I feel like you are in that state right now where you are balancing some aspect of yourself in the past, or you are helping to balance somebody else who is perhaps in this fiery energy. So this could be somebody else. How I was seeing it though, for me, is that I feel like if you are helping to sort of bring in some water for somebody else, it's because this was a past version of yourself. Does that make sense? So it's like, it's both of those things. You may be encountering somebody that you care about who's going through this cycle where they're reacting out of perhaps fear, but having a really sort of strong, almost prideful response to it. Like they're not showing how much it is that they feel fearful about whatever's happening, right? So it is kind of both, is kind of how I'm feeling this. But I mean, take it how it resonates. That might not be true for you. But anyways, so your energy right now, the integrated version of yourself, how you're showing up in this dynamic is this, the cobra and the dolphin, which I love because it's the water, right? The balance between fire and water. And what's so interesting is that you have this light magic card. This light magic card, which talks about the fact that, well, it's all about balance, right? Light magic meaning that if there's light, there's also darkness. They come together. And for you, Sagittarius, just look at these diamonds, right? Like, that's what I was really drawn to, is that absolutely you have this ability. Like, it feels like you've mastered the fire element, which just means like perhaps mastered some aspect of yourself with this, the cobra. It's some sort of mastery, because you're also bringing in the water, right? You're bringing in the temperance energy to absolutely like have this like very controlled, masterful use of fire. But you know that wherever there's fire, you also have to have water to put it out when it gets too much, right? That's your energy, which is so gorgeous. It's like, and it's bringing in all of this joy, all of this play, right? It could be something like here, because I see the lion as being very serious, right? Very, very serious. But the dolphin is just much more sort of like playful. Because dolphins are incredibly intelligent creatures, because it's coming in with the cobra, it's like you still absolutely have all of this sort of seriousness, or perhaps like gravitas, or like, because the cobra talks about being like a teacher or being a student or something like that. So it could be that how I'm seeing this, because this is the main energy with the dolphin, this is how you're appearing to others, is being very playful. But on the inside, you're the cobra, which is talking about, I feel like you are perhaps teaching others in some way, or teaching a specific other perhaps in how to manage these fiery energies. Something like that could be. And it's also coming in with the Great Mother here, which is really interesting. The myth of the Great Mother, because I'm seeing this as being like part of the god of waters as well. It's so interesting because anyways, I'm going to just keep going. There's going to be more that comes out with this. But so I'm using 2 tarot decks. It really is wanting to make a distinction between these 2 energies. So if it's a past version of yourself, or if it's another person, I feel like it may be like a combination of both. So take that how it resonates. But you have here for that sort of the fiery energy, the lion, panther, tarantula, the Page of Wands, which is so interesting. The pages in this deck are really interesting because, of course, pages come in with that sort of like childlike, almost like fool energy. But all of the pages in this deck, except for one of them, look very like adult, right? So it's kind of like perhaps like an adult who's acting in a childish way, maybe, or just like there's something it's like a child playing with fire, perhaps. I don't know. Anyways, but then you have here the Chariot, which of course is more water. So Cancer might be a significant sign for you. Perhaps you have Cancer placements, or there's another Cancer energy, like a Cancerian energy who's kind of giving you, or perhaps in the past gave you some key to completing this cycle, is kind of how this is feeling, because you have the Ace of Pentacles and the World. So again, it feels like a very significant completion of a cycle for you. And it's kind of like because you've completed the cycle, you're now showing others how to complete the cycle, is kind of how this is feeling. And especially because of, like, this. So this was the World was the last card that I pulled from this deck. And then you had the Fool coming out right beside it from the other tarot deck that I'm using, right? So a very clear ending and a very clear new start into this new energy. It's almost like I had to switch decks. It's that much of a different change for you, Sagittarius. Like, whatever this thing is, it's completing a cycle where perhaps there was acting out of fear or just like too much fire, whatever that means for you, however you interpret that energy, however that plays out in terms of your behavior. And now it's like, because you've encountered this, or because, I want to say because some sort of watery energy came in. I don't know what that means, but it's coming out here with the five of emotions, which talks about grief, right? So perhaps it doesn't have to be grief. It could just be any sort of like an overwhelm of emotional energy. So it kind of feels like there was just this huge wave of water that transformed you to quell some sort of fiery energy that was perhaps becoming too dominant within yourself. Or you are somehow bringing this energy where you're bringing a lot of water to a situation, perhaps a dynamic with a specific other, that is getting them to also sort of temper themselves, if that makes sense. But whatever it is, this is the transition. The World into the Fool, right? A brand new start because you are completing something. And it's like, at this point, when these two cards came out, I asked, is this another version of self? Is this another version of self, or is this somebody else? Because I wasn't sure at that point. And then you had here the World card, the Queen of Water, and the Wheel of Fortune, which is more water, right? This Queen of Water. So I feel like, yes, this is absolutely some sort of aspect of self that you are changing, right? With the changing heart. Some aspect of yourself is going through an inner transformation that's bringing in a lot of needed water to a situation, and it's getting the wheel to turn, right? But because the wheel, or the World card is coming out twice, I feel like there is also this dynamic where, because you've completed the cycle, you are also helping somebody else to complete this cycle as well. Like perhaps the ones that are close to you, or whatever it is. Anyways, it's really incredible. And then you have here the Ace of Water. More water. The Ace of Water and the Hierophant, which is talking about this Ace of Water, because it's kind of like this, because you are a fire sign, right? It's not wanting you to sort of eliminate that fire, right? It's not, because I was talking, I have to bring up these cards again, with the horse and the zebra. This horse is absolutely still a free spirit, right? Still a free spirit. But it's perhaps talking about, like, there is a balance as well. It's not wanting you to be too much in the watery element, because you are still a fire sign. I feel like that's what this is talking about. Okay, so you have here the Four of Emotions that also came out, which is talking about, like, there may be sort of this energy of too much water is kind of how I'm seeing this. Is like, water is absolutely healing, but it can also have a destructive element. So because you are naturally sort of a fiery energy, you don't want too much water. There has to be a point where you do come up for air at some point with this Ace of Emotions. Is that because the Four of Cups is all of that energy of, like, focusing too much on, like, what's around, like what's immediately visible, rather than sort of like it's cup half empty kind of feeling. So it's it's wanting you absolutely to, because I feel like with the Hierophant coming out, there is going to be sort of this period of rest, is kind of how I'm seeing this, or something to do with it, like going inward, because you have the Hierophant and the Hermit, which talks, both of these are sort of solitary inner journeys. So it could be something like somebody else has given you something to think about, is kind of how this is feeling. And it is absolutely putting you in this state of like tempering your own energy. And it's putting you in this state, but it doesn't want you to stay in that state forever, because you also have here the Muse of Inspiration, which is a fire. This is absolutely some sort of challenge that you're having to work through that has to do with your fire, whatever that means. Could be passion, could be inspiration, creativity, your forward momentum, your motivation, that kind of thing. Because before, some past aspect of you was moving forward too quickly in whatever domain. And so a watering, like sort of tempering energy had to come in order to not slow you down, but prevent you from perhaps going down a path that would be not beneficial. But now it's like, because that water energy has come down, you have to sort of go back inward into your true self, right? In order to bring out that aspect of fire again, now knowing what you know, which is to that if there's fire, you also have to have water to balance that out, is kind of how I'm seeing this. Okay, so I'm going to also talk about these cards. These were at the bottom of the deck that I didn't talk about. And so I always see this as being the context of the reading, like the overall story of what the reading is wanting to talk about. And so it's basically just summarizing. So you have this Knight of Emotions, which is basically that overflow of watery energy that came in order to quell some aspect of your fire, whatever that means. And then you have here the Strength and the High Priestess, right? So it's like, I feel like the High Priestess is this sort of, it's more of that watery moon energy, perhaps, right? Moon energy to balance the sun energy with the Strength here. So it's like this, whatever this moment was, where it's like you're going through some sort of healing period, it was in order for you to reconnect you with this aspect of the Strength card, which I always talk about as being like honoring absolutely some aspect of your true nature, right? And working in concert with that. It's not a taming energy. I don't like that sort of like, it's not taming some aspect of yourself. It's learning to work with in harmony some aspect of your true nature, right? It should be a harmonious relationship rather than a taming, or the reverse of letting this lion aspect of self run wild, right? So it's kind of like, that's what this energy was bringing in. It is sort of a challenge of emotional energy. So it could be something like your moon sign might be really significant in how you respond to this kind of challenge, right? So whatever your moon sign is might be significant. Perhaps that's also like a water, like perhaps your moon you have a moon sign in water. So perhaps some sort of emotional challenge that you encountered recently has allowed you to integrate these two aspects, right? The moon and the sun sort of coming together in some aspect. And then here you have the Eight of Emotions. The Eight of Emotions, and then the Ace of Inspiration, which is really lovely, because I feel like there's whatever this moment is for you, it's revealing that there was perhaps some sort of blockage somewhere, right? It's revealing that wherever you were headed, right, whatever you were trying to manifest or whatever it is, I feel like there was some sort of blockage that was preventing you from going in that direction. That's why the water came in. But it's like you're moving towards some sort of new inspiration is how this is feeling. Because the cards that came out with these ones were like, again, this is the past energy representation. You have the Lovers, the Justice, and the Four of Wands. But then you have the Death card. So I feel like there's something here, perhaps some sort of old wish or dream or whatever it is, some sort of desire that you had is going through this process, the death process, because of the changing heart, right? Some aspect of your desires or your wishes are now changing because of whatever this event was that was showing you that the energy that you were in before of like wanting to move forward quickly or having perhaps this zebra energy, right? Like wanting too much to stand out from the crowd, that kind of thing. Perhaps like seeing things in black and white as well was also kind of the energy that was coming through. Seeing things in like black and white, perhaps, is showing you that was not, like that was an energy that needed to go through a change and transformation. Because the horse, compared to the zebra, is much more, I want to say open, right? Like it's much more, it actually is coming through with much more freedom is kind of how this is feeling, but also very grounding energies, because too much fire, of course, can be like interpreted in terms of how you're feeling, your emotional state. It can feel like a lot of chaos, a lot of change, a lot of transformation, perhaps conflict, right? It might have been bringing in a lot of conflict, but now this energy with the horse is much more like grounded, right? There's not a lot of it's integrated. It's in tune with realistic kind of movements, or not realistic, much more natural and flowing kind of energies, right? Whereas the zebra is much more severe, or like too much rigidity perhaps in a certain situation. Anyways, I'm gonna end it there. I feel like you'll know if this message is for you, it'll resonate. If not, then you can just leave it. I'm gonna end it there. I'm gonna move to the extended. We're gonna talk about what's something that you can focus on in this situation. If this message resonated with you, please consider subscribing, liking, leaving a comment down below. Thank you so much for sharing your energy with me, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.